Yes, I am back on this lovely Easter Sunday to talk about everything to do with fences. Yes, I'm back again for the second time this Easter weekend to educate, motivate and inspire you and to get you to give it a go. And today I'm talking about fences because, well, I'm doing some. So it doesn't matter what size property you have, the chances are you'll be responsible for maintaining at least one fence, if not many, many meters of fence. Unless that fence is absolutely brand new, there are things you can do to it to spruce it up for the summer, even if it doesn't need any repair. So let's start with something really, really basic, and that is painting a fence. Now, obviously, if you're painting just a few square meters, then just use a fence brush and elbow grease. It won't take too long and clean up is really easy. However, if you're painting more than just a few square meters, then investing in a paint sprayer like this, I've found to be incredibly useful. Not only does it speed up the painting process hugely, but because the paint is being sprayed at the fence, it fills in all the little nooks and crannies, giving the fence a really good coat of paint. This is the Wagner Flexio paint sprayer, which I'll put an Amazon link to in the description below. Unlike an airless sprayer, you do have to keep refilling this paint reservoir. But since I recorded this video, I've actually bought a larger reservoir, which means I don't have to refill it so often. This particular version comes with a really long hose between the nozzle and the pump, which means you don't have to carry the pump around. This is a really quick and easy way of painting your fences, and if you've got more than just a few square meters, I would highly recommend investing in a sprayer like this. There's no doubt fences look better with a new coat of paint or stain, but there's no point in just painting a fence that's got structural problems and it's all wibbly wobbly. You need to resolve those. And the most common problem on a wooden fence is the posts rotting at ground level. Now, there's two ways of solving that problem. Either you take down a panel from either side, take the post out, put a new one in, concrete it in, and re-erect those panels either side. Or if the post is reasonably in good condition, you can potentially use what we call a concrete spur. I've got a break at the top of the concrete, at the bottom of the post, where it's gradually rotted away. And I can feel that that's where it's rotating. And this is never going to get any better. It's only ever going to get worse. And then it will fall down. So I need to sort this out. So today I'm going to use a concrete spur to fix this. Now, essentially, a concrete spur is just a lump of concrete, half of which you put into the ground, the other half of which you bolt to the good bit of the post. And that essentially keeps it upright and gives it another few years' life. Now, there's a couple of caveats to this. Obviously, the rest of the post has got to be in reasonable condition. There's no point in fixing concrete to a post that's completely rotten. And luckily mine is in a reasonable condition. And unfortunately, the second thing is you're still going to have to dig a hole, whether you like it or not, to put this spur in. This is going to go into a hole and get surrounded in concrete. So you're still going to have to dig a hole. Nothing is perfect in this world. Because the spur sits flush with the post, any concrete in this area does need to be removed so we can get the spur embedded in the ground. And with some of the earth removed, it's really clear what the problem is with this post. Oof, that is a bit soft. I'm only removing enough concrete on the front to get the spur in. Any on the sides or the back can remain and will just get cast back in place. Before fitting the spur, I trimmed the bottom of the post back to good timber. And the sequence here is to fix the spur to the post first, making sure that the post is in the right position and vertical, and then concrete the spur in. I'm using postcrete here in stages just to make sure that it's fully mixed and wet throughout. And after not very long, the post is back in working condition and doing what it should be. So we've covered painting fences, we've covered repairing fences, but if you want to put a new fence in, what sort of choices have you got? Well, I'm putting in a metal fence. This is what's called Durapost, and I quite like these. I've been using them for the last year almost, because actually they're quite light. So DIY, I can actually work with this on my own. I would say probably the most durable fence, one that's going to last the longest, is a concrete fence with concrete posts and concrete gravel boards. However, the posts are around 30 kilograms, which is a challenge to pick up on your own, and the gravel boards aren't much less. So really, as a DIY solution, to build a concrete fence on your own is really out of the question. Commonly, you'll find wooden fences all around the country, and these are pretty cheap and easy to put up on your own. However, as we said earlier, they do have that tendency to rot right at the ground level there. However, there is something you can do to try to prolong their life. Even though they don't last forever, timber fences are still extensively used everywhere because they're cheap and flexible. So there's products now out there to help timber fences from this rot at ground level. Although painting the bottom of posts with bitumen can help a little bit, don't think it's a perfect solution. Posts split with age, and therefore once they're split, the water will get in whether it's painted or not. What you can buy is these post saver pads or strips that are fixed just above but mainly below the ground level around the post. They're very easy to install. All you do is staple them in place, then wind them round the post once and a bit, and then fix them again, and then using a heat gun you heat up each side in sequence. And this post protector then does two things. First of all, it's got a heat shrink type function that shrinks itself around the post and tightens itself onto the post. But also on the back side of the plastic is a layer of bitumen that then melts and actually sticks to the wood. So it's got a proper layer of flexible protection between the timber and the elements. Whether you're digging post holes for wooden posts or concrete posts, or even like I'm here, metal posts, have a think about what type of equipment you're using. Now, a lot of people like augers, and augers work really well if you're in perfect ground. However, as soon as you hit a stone or half a brick, if you're on a new build site, or a piece of flint, they can really either jam or just kick off. So at which point you start ending up using something like this, which is something that I get on with better than anything else. This is just a traditional post hole digger together with a narrow shovel. I'll put links in the description where you can find these on Amazon. But if you want to use an auger, that's fine and that's up to you. Just don't have a go at me when you hit your first stone. And just one last thing about prices of fences. This is a very rough estimate on fence costs, which obviously depends on where you are in the country and where you tend to buy your materials. These are typical costs for my area, buying materials in builders' yards rather than DIY shops where they're more expensive. And what it shows is a timber fence per panel is the cheapest option, but probably has the least life. And if you're willing to pay another 50% plus, then a concrete fence with wooden infill panels is the one to go for, which should last a lifetime, but maybe isn't such a DIY option. The one I'm putting in at the moment has steel fence posts with wooden rails and feather edge, which money-wise sits sort of somewhere down the middle, and hopefully will last some time, but I'll let you know how it's getting on in future updates in years to come. That should be okay. So I'm just getting ready to set my second post of the day, which is, there's always a certain amount of messing around because it's got to be on the right line, it's got to be vertical in both directions, and it's got to be the right distance away from the last post as well. So I'm going to leave it there. I hope you enjoyed this video and it's inspired you to get out on this lovely Easter weekend and do a little bit of DIY. I will see you next time.